Happy late Thanksgiving, guys, and what a way to celebrate this moment by watching Knives Out, the latest detective thriller that I have seen this week. Sometimes I just want to get out a little bit of my usual routine of watching horror movies, animated films, or fantasy films. And sometimes I like to go with some good old detective drama sometimes. I'm not exactly, an expert on that, but I can admire, the length that in order to write a detective film. But I'm getting a little bit ahead. So anyway, I remember I saw this film actually a few days ago, but certain circumstances makes this review a little bit late. One of them, of course, is Thanksgiving, and you know how things kind of work out on these kind of things. But, well, I'm not gonna lie, I was semi-anticipating this film. The trailers look good. It feels like it had a kind of like a great cast. But one of the things that actually got me curious is that Knives Out was actually written by Rian Johnson, the guy who technically with his writing divided the Star Wars fan base. Yeah, I know, many people have mixed feelings about because, the Last Jedi incident, even though it's not entirely his fault, he's partially to blame, but this is another can of worms that we can open some other time. But some people like Looper. But truth to be told, I never saw Looper, so I have no exact opinion about it. But anyway, so we got Knives Out. Knives Out is basically the run-of-the-mill detective murder mystery that that you see in these kind of movies. Like 2 years ago, we had Murder in the Orient Express. It's kind of similar to that, but one thing that actually Knives Out do is that it takes on a little bit of a twist in the storytelling department. I'll get to that when the moment is due. But right on the get-go, I will say you this: if you are interested to watch the movie, I highly recommend you if you really like detective movies. This is kind of like 2 hours long. It has a little bit of problems here and there, but overall, I basically enjoyed this film better than I expected to, despite some hiccups there. So that's the short version. And now we go for the long version. So what Knives Out is about. So basically the story can be summarized like this. There is this big house. It's owned by this rich man. He's played by none other than the legendary Christopher Plummer. He has this rich family, kind of like this nudie family, all fill out with with an all-star cast. Which and let me see some names here that I know that is. We got Jamie Lee Curtis. I think Chris Evans. Chris Evans, Michael Shannon also appears. Tony Collette. Jaden Martin, Ricky Lindholm, Kay Callan, Noah, and the list kind of really goes on. It's kind of like this snooty family who they kind of have this this bickery relationship. The typical rich snooty guy who they just want his fortune here and there. And of course the movie starts out when they find Christopher Plummer dead. So basically the movie turns into a whodunit. And funny thing is that the movie kind of starts out, with a few of the family members kind of talking, and then some names appear, on next to them. It's kind of reminiscent, like they're making a documentary of the said assassination. Man, that is Man, that Jesus, that is that it doesn't it technically doesn't contribute anything on the style of the film, but it's technically like, okay, you had an idea, but you kind of drop it. So continuing on, the whole mystery is being investigated by none other than Detective Daniel Craig, and while trying to see who done it, the biggest clue that can help solve out the whole mystery is none other than this Latin American woman named Marta, who was technically the caretaker slash nurse of Christopher Plummer. This girl named Marta is played by, what was her name? Ana de Armas. And I wish I could tell you a little bit more about this movie, but unfortunately, when it's about detective movies, it's gonna be hard to tell out some specifics without spoiling the film. So before I do that, let me tell you. Again, the movie's good, the cinematography is interesting, a little bit of fumbles here and there. I do have a little bit of kind of issues, a little bit in the middle ground, I would say. I kind of like a little bit the twisting emotion that kind of gave me. It has some interesting music. Although the ending is kind of it's so like kind of it's satisfying. I'll say that it's satisfying. Oh, and for a movie called Knives Out, yeah. The only thing symbolic that you see in the movie is that you know that you saw the trailers, and even that you know that this chair full of knives that kind of look like wannabe of the throne of Game of Thrones. Here's the thing. This chair technically not important except on the climax. That's all I can say. But with that said, I think it's time for me to talk to you a little bit more details about the likes and the like about the movie. Again, a little bit of spoilerish warning. So at first, the movie starts out, you know, like the run-of-the-mill detective movie. They find someone dead, the family gather, and everyone tells their alibi. In this case, everyone talks about that they reunited for the Christopher Plummer's birthday. They all bicker because they just want to be, you know, part of his inheritance, his will, and of course it involves the wife, the children, cousins, you know, all in the family, and everyone begins. Every character has kind of like their own, you know, personalities. Some of them, you know, like they're assholes because Christopher Plummer even technically quote-unquote blackmails kind of like the shittiest part of the family. Like, for example, he is blackmailing one of them because he cheats on his, I think he was cheating on his wife. Yes, I think it was. He was cheating on his wife. He also blackmails someone because he basically doesn't, he technically just sucking up the money without doing any work. He does no secrets about it. And basically that's pretty much what I could understand about it. So yeah, again, like after the murder, the only one who is doing, you know, the investigation is none other than Daniel Craig. At this moment, I'll say right now that the acting in this one is really, really good. If there's one thing that I can commend about this movie, is the acting. This is one of the, for a detective movie, this is phenomenal acting, I'll say. Everyone do their part, even for a detective film. Although I'm gonna say that some of the A-list actors that also appear in the movie doesn't feel exactly like they did something significant. They're just kind of there to fill out some A kind of plot, I'll say, or they just want to fill out space. You know, detective films, they always kind of find subjects and The more subjects you have, the technically the less roles you gotta get into it. Although almost a little bit everything kind of takes up half a part. Although for me, kind of hard to pinpoint. I heard many people saying that there is one character who is technically this young troll who is always on his smartphone like this. He basically has a he becomes kind of like a part of just an important clue, but that's basically it. It's technically an important clue. Even Jamie Lee Curtis, it technically doesn't. She just basically comes up as, you know, the widow, and just that. She's technically the widow. Of course, there is a subject of the culprit, which I'm not gonna tell you right away this. But speaking about the culprit, I like the kind of like the twist that goes there. Oh my god! Hold on. I'm getting a little bit ahead of myself. I was talking about the acting. I will say again that the best actor in this movie is none other than Daniel Craig and Christopher Plummer. Christopher Plummer is always a good actor, even in the little roles that he did. But the one who shares the screen most is Daniel Craig, and every time he shows up, he was amazing. He played out kind of like this charismatic, very smart, but you kind of know that he also has a little bit of a sassy side to this detective. He sometimes comes out as snarky. He's basically Sherlock Holmes the whole this whole situation. Man, that sometimes you just want to know if he's corrupt, if he's honest, or something like that. That was brilliant, let me tell you. That was technically brilliant, and I could say that I can only suggest you this movie only for Daniel Craig, and that was awesome. Yeah, and the character who is technically the key of it, which is this Latin American girl, what was it, Ana de Armas? She's actually good, I'll say. And for that, then to talk to you about her, it is time for me to tell you that this movie again does a kind of like a little bit of a twist on detective storytelling. Oh, did I mention that Frank Oz also appears as the guy who I think he was the guy who reads the will. Yeah, Frank Oz makes that kind of like a small role in there. That's something I have to tell you. All right. So anyway, I did tell you about the character of Marta. Why she plays an integral role and how she twists up a little bit the detective stories in the writing department. Here's the thing. Usually, in a normal detective novel works like this. There's a murder. The detective goes on. The subjects are surrounded. They're trapped in the house. They bicker each other. They find clues, and then you don't know who is the killer. But when the clues are finally done, or sometimes subtly, revealed, the detective will say, "Okay, now the culprit is you." That's kind of like the basic storytelling on detective dramas. In this one, it kind of worked out in a different way, because this time we do see the murder happen. Well, quote unquote, the murder happened. Almost in the first 20 minutes of the movie. And the key is, of course, the main character, Marta. What happened is that she was with all this family bickering and all this stuff, the Christopher Plummer character and the Anna character, they just goes upstairs. He kind of acts foolishly, like tumbling, the kind of like a board of this Japanese game named Go. And of course, he's supposed to give him the medicine. But unfortunately, during this hula-loo, she mixed up the wrong medicine, and so he has kind of minutes to die. But Christopher Plummer technically kind of accepts his fate, and also tells her that that since she mixed up the medicine, she and her family is basically in danger, because it is revealed that Marta, she and her sister are technically kind of legal. Her mother is an illegal immigrant, and if they find out, that she made a mistake, it's big time, and it will risk her mother being deported. So basically, Christopher Plummer kind of come up with this big plan that she reluctantly do, but when she goes to see him one last time, he's like, "I'm trusting you." He grabs a knife and he slits his throat. He slits his throat. And all the things that you have to see is that Marta has to outwit Daniel Craig and everyone else to make it look like it was a murderer. So this movie technically kind of became detective cat and mouse. And some of the things that you're gonna notice also is that things are technically going wrong, but it doesn't tell you later. And if you're not as attentive as I am, okay, I'm not exactly that attentive, you're gonna have a little bit of a hard difficulty to see what really is going on. I mean, some of the things I kind of expected and some I didn't. I was basically, kind of guessing and kind of being, oh my god, how things are gonna happen. And because this movie, you can't see, of course, who is good and who is bad. We know that we have to root for Marta, but still, she's not being truthful. She's not exactly being truthful about something that could really happen, and we know she's under danger that her mother will be deported. But we also see Daniel Craig, who he doesn't act like a villain. He's technically doing his job. Although speaking of the Marta character, there is one thing that actually, I don't know if this kind of ruins it, it kind of bothers it, but it's technically a plot point that is a little bit ridiculous, but kind of dang and rubbish, I'll say. It's not bad. It's actually a very good. It's very good when you put in consideration that it raises the stakes, but it also can be a little bit of an ultimate weapon. Here's the thing. The character of Marta, she has this quirk. She has this thing in which she basically can't tell a lie. The reason why she can't tell a lie is that apparently every time she feels like she wants to lie, her body can't take it, and she, oh my god, she vomits. Oh my god, thinking about it, it made me think that, it made me want to even puke. Sorry, that was genuine, I didn't know how this happened. So yeah, the Marta vomiting habit that made her prevent to tell a lie is an important plot point about this movie. The movie does indeed drop out some hints / clues about some little things. Right now I'll tell you, for example, one of the things I don't get is that in a few scenes they do play out with a baseball, which some ducks go. The ducks are also some plot points. They are broken things. There is also a little bit spoilerish. I'm gonna say that there is also an important point when there's this Kate Callan character. And I'll leave it like that anyway. But yeah. In any detect, I gotta hand it to it that Rian Johnson did really was meticulously, doing his writing homework on since they're writing detective mystery. They really need focus and attention and plan out, everything to come out, nicely. Sometimes you kind of gotta break the rules in order to go into some kind of bullshit universe, let's say. No offense, just in case. Take for example the Danganronpa games. The Danganronpa games is also a murder mystery, but sometimes they have to play out, with the fantasies that they go with that kind of logic. But no matter what wacky world you go in, logic is the most important aspect that someone should focus on when writing detective films like this one. Okay, what else is? Again, cinematography is okay, good. The soundtrack is also good. Sometimes they do tend to, keep it all silent because one of the things that detective films should do is to keep on thrill, and sometimes having a background music all the time doesn't help out so much. I'm not gonna, for the sake of everybody, I'm not gonna tell you exactly, the ultimate conclusion. I won't tell you about, what at the end happens, but I will say that technically the final minutes, you're gonna see probably the Oscar-worthy moment of Daniel Craig. Daniel Craig really somehow he gets a little bit of an Robert Downey Jr. injection on him, and man, the way he talks, the way he begins to break it out, is amazing. And man, that if Daniel Craig is not nominated at least for an Oscar, I don't know what the frick is happening into this world. Ah, man. So yeah, I'm not gonna say the ending, but basically, yeah, mystery solved. Things happen that I'm not gonna spoil. But the funny thing is that the ending kind of makes me remember another movie that I just saw this year. Although, actually, to be honest, for some reason, seeing this movie makes me remember that I just saw something similar, but this one goes a little bit more like horror thriller. And remember, yeah, the movie is Ready or Not. As for some reason I have the similar vibes. Well, woman trapped with this snooty family who technically they hate / love each other. They have problems within each other. Although, yeah, one of them is crazy psychopaths, and the other one are pompous bastards. That's the thing. But yeah, for some reason, the ending of both movies, for some reason, kind of felt similar, but at the same time different in the same way. The only thing that came, so even popping out of my head, came out the last word from Ready or Not, which is in-laws. Oh man. Okay, but you want to ask, I think I like Ready or Not a little bit better because since Ready or Not was more thrilling, you have a really likable character, and the ending it has a bigger payout. But that's just me. I'm not saying that Knives Out is bad. It's actually really good for what it is. So if you are into detectives, I really highly recommend you. So basically, that's Ready or Not. So what else I can say? You just watch it. Rian Johnson probably did a good job on this one. Yeah, he redeemed himself. Otherwise, people will say that The Last Jedi was actually a good movie.